10 reasons why London is so expensive. Some individuals find it confusing that living in London may be extremely pricey. Prices are so outrageous that it may seem as if there are magnets waiting at the entrance to each store to swipe your debit card and rob you of all your change. It's certainly on the higher end to spend £20 on a coffee and a sandwich, but there are locations where you can spend £10 without purchasing anything really unusual. There are some very good explanations for why London is so pricey if you've been wondering. 1. High sales tax. If you resided outside of the EU and travelled to the UK for business or pleasure before January 1st, 2021, you were entitled for a VAT refund. This eligibility ended on January 1st, 2021. The Retail Export Scheme, sometimes known as tax-free shopping, was the name given to the VAT refund programme. However, the programme has since been discontinued by the government of the United Kingdom. When the Brexit transition process came to an end on December 31st, 2020, the government of the United Kingdom discontinued VAT res. Is it still possible to purchase items without paying tax? Beginning on January 1st, 2021, the government of the United Kingdom will no longer allow tax-free transactions at airports, ports or Eurostar stations. If you are travelling to a country that is not a member of the EU, you will not be able to purchase items like gadgets and apparel that are tax-free. Shops in the UK are no longer required to provide VAT refunds to customers shopping from outside the country. Visitors from outside the country may still shop in local stores tax-free and have their purchases sent directly to their homes abroad. It is no longer possible to claim VAT refunds on things that can be transported back home in baggage. 2. Consumer protection. In the US, there are tight restrictions and laws governing retail merchandise and how to handle customers. You must sell only high-quality items without misrepresentation. London doesn't follow these guidelines. In this city, class action lawsuits aren't allowed, making it easier for people to be scammed. Londoners are accustomed to this and are vigilant about what and who they purchase. This may be challenging to handle for visitors and new immigrants. It takes time for the market to sort out these difficulties, and you may be overcharged before you can tell good from poor. Without protection, prices may rise, and consumers don't realise it. 3. Higher wages in London. In general, people in London earn more money than those who reside in other cities in the United Kingdom. The price of the products and services must rise as well when company owners must pay employees more to work for them. Of course, there are advantages and disadvantages to this. Londoners are able to live and thrive due of the money they earn at work, but everyone else pays a little more at the register. One of a company's largest expenses is labour, and labour prices in London are relatively expensive. To ensure that their price can be kept in control at their London stores, some firms may outsource their services. Increased total expenses will spread across the London region as a result of the higher salaries. The good news is that because the staff are already getting a respectable wage, you can generally cut down a bit on the tips. 4. Lack of familiarity. Many individuals visit London and then complain that it was considerably more costly than they had anticipated. This is extremely typical, and some of it is associated with the visitor's ignorance. Locals are familiar with the city's layout and know where to get reasonable prices for products, services and cuisine. People who are unfamiliar with the region tend to choose brands, goods and accommodations that they are familiar with from their experience in other countries. Since they are basically tourist magnets, these locations often have higher costs. You must have some knowledge about the London region before visiting if you don't want to become a victim of this problem. Ask the locals where the best bargains are by talking to them. They will inform you that certain neighbourhood firms may charge far more fairly than you may have anticipated. Additionally, there are methods of navigating London via the bus system, which is far less expensive than taxis. Despite the fact that it is not at all difficult, tourists don't believe they can take up or understand this method. This is another justification for doing some advanced study on the places you visit. 5. Inequality. Inequality exists everywhere. There are rich and poor folks. However, London is primarily rich. Some of the world's richest individuals reside in London, and they're becoming richer. Luxury products and services are popular in London. High-income earners who like to vacation and spend that money frequent the region. This renders the city costlier. If Londoners were much more middle-income people, prices would decrease. 6. Limited market share. The size of London is far smaller than that of the US. This implies that the market that the retail outlets may pursue is substantially less. To win over clients, they will need to compete more fiercely, which regrettably may result in higher pricing. To grow the firm and draw in additional clients, there is often a significant amount of advertising and marketing involved. Retailers have a simpler way of thriving in nations with higher populations since their client base is much stronger. There just isn't enough space to increase market share, which would aid London in lowering its total expenses. Due to the number of goods sold, even at grocery shops, the margins on them must be bigger. When feasible, some Londoners may buy their items somewhere else to attempt to avoid paying the high retail costs in the city. It is more difficult to avoid these increased charges for individuals who are only passing through the region. 7. Real estate costs. People in London desire to concentrate on the very core of the city, much as we see in significant American urban regions. Tourists will love all the activity in this region, which will be fairly active. The issue with this region is that it will have the highest real estate costs. Hotel rates rise along with real estate values when they are high. You'll see that vacation rentals are more prevalent in the downtown area of the city in addition to being more in demand. This ultimately boils down to making a challenging choice about where you would like to live when you explore London. Do you want to be close to everything and take advantage of all that is on offer nearby, or are you okay with having to travel a length to get to the destinations? Budget is ultimately the deciding factor, but you can anticipate that different property prices throughout the nation will affect how pricey an area is. The average cost of real estate in London is rather expensive, and it is unlikely that this will change anytime soon. People just anticipate that it will cost them extra since the neighbourhood is regarded for being upscale and outstanding. 8. Trade in British pound. Some nations have currencies that are far more powerful than the US dollar. This is advantageous for citizens of those nations who go to the US to visit, but it makes it exceedingly difficult for them to travel in London. Basically speaking, the UK's economy is fairly robust and often outperforms that of the US. You will get the equivalent of around £0.83 for every dollar. For the Americans who are relocating to or travelling through the London region, this will make goods feel even more pricey. The nation may become a little too pricey when your cash doesn't go as far and the cost of living there is already greater. When travelling, it is important to keep the currency rate in mind. Choose a destination where the local currency is less strong than the US dollar if you want your money to go farther. This is an important factor to take into account while organising a trip or a relocation. Make sure to include this into the price of your London travel. To convert all costs to American dollars, use an online calculator. By doing this, you can be sure that you aren't budgeting for a sum of money that will grow in value by more than 25% when you actually go. 9. Transportation. Everyone has to bear travel expenses of some sorts to support their lifestyles. Transit costs add up quickly. London's prices appear higher than elsewhere. London is tougher to navigate than other European cities. Fewer roads mean lengthier traffic jams. Using the train to escape traffic will cost you a lot of money. London's railway tickets are greater than in other regions, and it often seems like there are no alternative choices. Londoners complain about how hard it is to move about and how pricey transit is. London is one of the toughest locations to make it between VAT, retail and commute costs. If you reside in the city, you may be able to walk everywhere. This will save you money, but it won't make London inexpensive. You'll still need to travel, which will be expensive. 10. Food bills. Food prices are last on our list. Food is expensive in London, both out and at home. In some supermarkets, a gallon of milk can cost as much as $6. Feeding a family at these costs will leave you penniless. London's food prices are high because more people can afford them. London's restricted accessibility contributes to its high prices. Restaurants and supermarket businesses work hard to replenish their aisles. Once the stuff arrives, you'll pay substantial labour charges to fill the shelves. Food expenditures will make London costly to live and visit. London is one of the oldest cities in the world. Being a centre of world trade and business for centuries has turned the city into one of the most expensive metropolitan hubs on the face of this planet. While the reasons behind such an inflated cost of living are multifaceted, as we discussed earlier, one thing is for sure: it still won't ever stop you from wanting to see the city at least once in your life. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe, comment and turn on the notification bell. This is Learning Canteen.